Hi, I'm Phillip Jones with Kofax, and I'm here at the Transform 2015 conference with Greg Casamento, who's a managing partner at Locke. Greg, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Phillip. It's great to be here.
Great to have you. So, Locke's in the legal space. What's going on in the legal industry at this point in time? What kind of things are affecting the industry?
Well, specifically, we're here at Kofax to talk about electronic signatures and how customers can utilize electronic signatures to both enhance customer experience as well as to create operational efficiencies to save time, money, and resources by taking paper-based processes and converting them to electronic ones.
Okay. So the conference is about improving customer engagement. And is it possible to improve customer engagement and improve operational effectiveness at the same time?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, that's one of the things that we preach to clients who are looking to adopt e-signatures, is the fact that customers want to go paperless. They want to do things electronically. It's quicker for them. It's they understand it. That's where everything is moving towards. With electronic signatures and electronic processes, you get the benefit of being able to make decisions faster. You improve the quality and control over your documents and the information contained in your documents, because you're not transferring them from, say, paper to having someone then input them into an electronic format so that you can manage your databases. We've had customers who, by converting to an electronic process using e-signatures, have gone from the closing of a transaction from a 30-day time period to a period of hours.
Wow, huge difference.
It is a huge difference.
Well, your organization has established something called the 6-point framework. It sounds interesting. What's that about? Tell us a little bit more about that.
So we developed a 6-point framework so that clients can take that framework, sit down at sort of a round table with all of the individuals within the organization who are going to have a say in adopting an electronic signature process, and mitigate and assess, or identify and assess and mitigate risks. So the first risk that we talk about is authentication. How do you authenticate someone coming outside of your business, coming into your process? How do you identify who they are? So that's one of the risks that you need to mitigate in an e-signature process. The second one is repudiation. Once a document is signed, how do you make sure that document is protected so that later the consumer or the customer doesn't come back and say, well, I signed a document, but those aren't the terms and conditions that I signed. After that, we talk to clients about the admissibility risk. What's the risk that the document signed electronically wouldn't be admitted into evidence, you wouldn't be able to prove them up? How do you mitigate that risk?
Yes.
From there, we talk to clients about the compliance risk. What sort of regulatory and legal burdens and issues do you have? And that goes from everything from getting consent from the consumer in the e-sign process, as well as to providing any sort of disclosures in a transaction, because any disclosure in a transaction that has to be provided in paper also has to be provided in an electronic format. After that, we have what we call the adoption risk. That's the risk that a customer won't adopt your process because you'll have so many bells and whistles on it that it'll just become too burdensome and they'll opt out. And the great thing about an electronic process is you can actually measure where customers drop off in the process. So if there's a certain point a customer gets to and they're confused or they don't understand something, you'll see it, because a lot of customers within the process will drop out at that point, and then you can tweak it and change it. So the final risk that we ask clients to assess is what we call the relative risk. And that is essentially, you take all of the risks we talked about earlier: authentication, repudiation, admissibility, compliance, adoption. And you look at those from the perspective of, if I convert to an e-sign process, are those risks any greater in the e-sign process than they are in the paper-based process?
Good point.
Because if they're not, if they're equivalent, with all of the other benefits that you get from converting to an e-process, it absolutely makes sense to do so. It's almost like it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, excellent, Greg. That's fascinating. Thank you for sharing that. What advice would you give to an organization that hasn't started down the path of e-signature, and how would they get started, and what wisdom do you have to share with them?
Well, what we tell clients is to take the paper-based process. take all of your documents that you're going to have the consumer or the customer look at, starting from A to Z, put them out on a table. Because all of those same documents that the consumer is going to interact with in a paper-based process, they're going to have to interact with in an electronic one. So it gives you a good roadmap to say, all right, here's the disclosures that we need to give, here are the documents that need to be signed, here's back-end information we need to provide. So that ensures that you've got all the relevant documents covered. All right, and then what we suggest to clients that they do is they sort of sit around the table with a 6-point framework and they talk about how when they convert from this paper-based process, utilizing this series of documents and disclosures, how they're then going to mitigate and address the risks in the 6-point framework. And then once I think a customer has done that, then I think they should go out and they should talk to e-signature vendors. They should get legal counsel to make sure that they're complying with the electronic signature laws as well as the underlying disclosure laws in any transaction. And by doing that, I think in just talking to people, they'll get a sense of how they can best convert their electronic process to a paper-based one.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Greg. You're clearly a deep expert in this space, and I really appreciate you taking time to share it with myself and the rest of the conference. Thanks for being here.
I appreciate it, Philip. Thank you very much.
Enjoy the show.
Thanks.